how is it that we sit here, Waj, every week, we see the writing on the wall, and yet it is these people that have been Democratic analysts so deep in the establishment. And let me tell you something. The only thing that I hear when I hear the word Democratic establishment is old and white and go away. Because that's what comes up in my head.
There's another one. Old, white, wealthy, to be clear. It's old, white, wealthy folks who, if we have to be very honest, are just as uncomfortable talking about racism as the Republicans.
Or I will go a step further and say are just as racist, but hide it better.
That's true too.
Right? Are just as racist, but hide it better because they want to give the perception, because it's part of the grift. You have to have the right facade. You have to throw out a little sprinklings. You have to put on the dashiki and kneel in the Capitol building. Coats. You got to say a little
Michelle Obama,
a little Obama, a little
non-bread,
a little Beyonce, and then all of a sudden, right? We don't seem so racist.
Yeah.
But their policies and their inaction actually tell you that Democrats have always been Republican-like, that there have only been some flashpoint years where you've seen people step up and do what is right. Not what was politically expedient, but what is right.
Well, what is right, but then also sell it to the public, right? You have to sell it. Like you have to, we'll talk about this and we'll probably invite some of these people who came up with this race class narrative thing. But like the reason why Obama couldn't escape it was because Obama's a black man. Obama had to engage in the culture war because they dragged him through the culture mud, right? You're not born in. He had to show his birth certificate. Like, look how humiliating. What other president had to prove that he was born in America? None.
But let me tell you, but again, had he been a Republican, let's just say he had been a Republican, he'd have been like, go to hell.
Yeah.
Right?
F yourself.
It's the bending.
The perpetual bending.
The perpetual bending. The perpetual, okay, look, if I play nice with you, you won't keep hitting
Charlie
me
Brown
over the head
and Lucy.
Every time.
Well, look, it's not just the Democrats represent an American problem, an institutional problem of bending the knee to white rage and white anxiety. Mm-hmm. Look at the truckers, for example. Let's see how we're going to deal with the truckers. The truckers are going to be a great example. These extremists funded by the right wing, most of them aren't truckers, who are against the shutdowns in Canada, which is why they shut down Canada, thoroughly unpopular in Canada because unlike America, Canada did not politicize the vaccines. Even the conservatives there like,
and
go.
80% of their population is actually vaccinated.
And loves the protections, right? So now they're coming here, these American-funded truckers. Let's see how this country responds, right? We always bend the knee. The institutions bend the knee. Corporations bend the knee. The Democrats bend the knee. The problem is we only do have one like friggin' wagon to ride, right? We have what we called out, what we said for years. It's happening now with Russia. Majority of Republican voters are pro-Putin. Ladies and gentlemen, they're pro-Putin. You got Mike Pompeo being pro-Putin. You got Donald Trump being pro-Putin. You got Tucker Carlson doing Pravda, like Russian propaganda on Fox News. All the stuff that we said, that it's a radicalized, weaponized death cult. They're playing for white power. They're playing for all the marbles. You darkies are too hysterical. You darkies are too reactionary. You darkies are, the center will hold. Whiteness will hold. Don't take it on too much. Just be quiet. And we need a party that will fight for democracy, but will fight for us. Will fight. You need fighters. The Democrats are so terrified of their own shadow. They're terrified of the word progressive. How will they fight literally a fascist movement? How will they fight?
They're not going to fight. And this is what I continue to tell people is that America is breaking apart. Right? America is breaking apart. The Democratic Party is not holding. They were supposed to be our institutional saviors. They were the ones that were supposed to come in, be the grown-ups in the room and restore our agencies, restore our faith, restore our hope. They have done none of those things. When Joe Biden looks at his poll numbers are not just about the fact that you can't get any real bills passed, right? It's also the fact that the things that you said that you would do, the things that you said that you would do as a candidate, you have yet to do.
And who's to blame for that, though?
Mansion and cinema.
But just to bring it full circle, how everything bends to everything bends its knee to white rage and white power. I'll also say how everything is filtered through the white gaze to not disrupt and anger white folks. Instead of saying mansion and cinema, who do they throw under the bus? The squad. And who are the squad? Overwhelmingly young women of color.
Yeah, because once again,
it's all connected.
It is easy.
It's connected. Can I say this though? Here's a question I have for you before we leave. I'm usually not cynical. You're the cynic of the two. But I was thinking, can you blame, two questions. Can you blame black and brown folks for sitting out the next election and saying, you know what? We came out during a pandemic. We did everything we could. And you just don't care about us. Fine. White people, you figure this out yourselves. This country is having a moment. You figure it out. We've barely survived. We'll inshallah continue surviving. We're tapping out. We're taking care of our families. We're taking care of our communities like we always have. We're going to rely on ourselves. White folks figure it out.
Yeah. And
do you blame folks?
No, I don't. And I no longer find it in my soul to be able to tell people to go and vote because it's going to save their lives and it's going to save democracy, because I don't believe it. I really don't. And when I think about what government has done to black and brown people, to black and brown families, one of the things, and I will say this, is that we love to believe as a country that Jim Crow was 100 some odd years ago. There are people alive today, right, who have experienced that. They're in their 60s.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So we love to believe that, this hatred, this racism, segregation, all of these things was so long ago. It could never happen again.
MLK.
These people are at Soul Cycle. They're picking up their grandkids from school. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? They're not, 100 years old. They're not centennials, right? And so when I say that, people are like, "Oh my God, you're right," because we've been gaslit into believing that it was so long ago that none of these things can't come back.
People think Loving v. Virginia was like 1920. It was 1961.
Yeah. People think that, women have always had rights. You got financial independence in 1974, 46 years ago, when you were able to apply for a credit card by yourself as an unmarried woman.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So here, this is what I'm saying, that at some point in time, people are going to start to take care of themselves like they always have, because they've never been able to look to the police, look to their elected officials, to look to anyone to be their safety net. That's why we have such a racial wealth gap that we do, an education gap that we do, an opportunity gap that we have, because what was always put together as safety nets have never been nets for anyone other than white people.
Yeah, the home loans that actually built the middle class that we all cherished in the good old days, 98% of those federally backed home loans in the 20th century went to white families. And so the thing is this, I know, people, I think that our listeners will appreciate this, but we have to keep speaking up, right? Because even though I got cynical for a second, I just can't help it. I still have to fight. I'm one of those go down swinging type guys.
Oh no, I'm going to go down swinging, but I don't poo-poo people who are like,
I don't either. And I feel like Democrats have to realize that, if there's we'll wait and see, guys. We don't know. But if there's a depression in black and brown voters, and I know what's going to happen, the establishment and the media is going to blame the black voters, never the whites. God forbid, never the whites. But they're going to blame black and brown voters. How come you guys didn't show up in numbers? How come there wasn't turnout? I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I don't blame people for saying, you know what? There's no party that represents me. I'm just going to take care of myself. But I feel like we still got to fight. We got to do our part, because what's happening right now, guys, especially with Russia, there's going to be a global realignment when the Republicans win. You're going to have a pro-white Christian nationalist movement headed by the most powerful country in the world, the United States, that's going to align itself with Russia and Poland, and if God forbid, whatever, MBS, any authoritarian dictator.
Yep.
And the post-World War II order and all those freedoms that you talked about, that's gone. Complete realignment, and it's going to be terrible for women, people of color, Muslims, refugees, LGBTQ. And you're seeing snapshots of that in Texas and Florida. And if the Democrats woke up, realized who their base was, defined what a progressive was, define their message, build a race, class, multicultural coalition, and punch the bully in the mouth with the majority they barely have, we would have a shot. That's what's so depressing.
Yeah, we would have a shot if Democrats decide to take one. You can't miss shots you don't take.
That's
Do you know what
true
I'm
too.
saying? And you also can't land shots you don't take. So
and you have to know your enemy too.
Yeah, the point is action, right? Not just grifter talk. Thank you for listening to Democracy-ish. I'm Danielle Moodie.
I'm Wajahat.
And we will be back next week if there is a country, democracy, a planet left.